Hey everybody, final thoughts time for the crew. And I gotta say, I like this one a lot for a lot of reasons. One is the fact that I've always been intrigued by the idea of trick-taking games, but traditionally, trick-taking games are really not compatible with two-player gaming, which is pretty much what my wife and I do all the time. And while I have actually played some other two-player only trick-taking games, they really didn't capture our imagination in the way that the crew did. By introducing a third dummy player, which I know is a terrible idea for most players, but we found it to be phenomenal. And in much the same way that I think Seven Wonders, a very popular card drafting game, is at its best as a two-player game because it implements a third player that players share control over. By introducing Jarvis here, it actually gives you, well, I'm not going to say more to think about than a higher player count game, because I do believe the more players you have around the table, the tougher this is going to be. But it gives you something to think about in a different way, that you have more control. A third player sitting at the table, I can't count on them to make the right decisions. Never mind, I can't count on myself or Jen, my wife, to make the right decision. But introducing a third variable can be really tricky when I'm still trying to come to terms with the basic ideas of how to be a good trick-taking player. And so we found Jarvis is a great gateway for us. That even though we have limited communication, we can still talk openly about what we know is public knowledge and solve the problem. And the fact that this game comes with 50 different problems to solve. I mean, the first time we played this, we sat down and I think played 6 or 7 full games back to back. And we would have happily kept going, except we had to go do other stuff. So I'm really liking it a lot. But here's the thing. I've played it with my wife as a 2-player game. I very briefly played it as a 4-player game at a recent convention. And I did not have as much fun under those circumstances. It wasn't the fault of the other players. It was, if anything, it was my fault because they were all accomplished trick takers. And so I felt like an idiot. I didn't know what I was doing and I was just floundering around and I felt like I was the weak link of the chain, which is another reason why the crew works so well for me and Jen, because we can explore this thing together. And I feel like I would do better now if I were to play with them again. But since I don't have a very broad experience with this at a higher player count, it does go up to 5 players. In fact, officially, it's a 3 to 5 player game. I really wanted to talk to somebody else about the higher player count experience and just their experience in general. And so I am not alone today. Hey, everybody, say hey to Shea Parker.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Shea. So, Shea runs his own YouTube channel. It's very good. RTFM. I won't tell you what that's an acronym for. You can go check out his channel. Links are in the show notes. Shea's got a copy of this as well. And I know he has played it at those higher player counts. And I am really curious. Well, first of all, Shea, what is your experience as a trick taker?
So I play Spades with some friends of mine, and I really enjoy it. Spades is a great 4-player trick-taking game where you're on teams of 2, and you are working together. But like all trick-taking games, there's limited communication. So you have to, psychically connect with your teammates and make sure you're playing the right things. There's also a bidding element to it. So I'd say a middleweight like trick-taking game, but it's a traditional card game.
Right.
I've also played a few of the trick-taking board games that have come out, but the crew is something a little different. I've never played a fully cooperative trick-taking game before, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I played this game 3-player because we are, I'm in Los Angeles, so we are all locked in our houses, but luckily I live with my partner and our roommate, so I've been able to play this game 3-player a fair amount. We sat down, we played 12 missions in a row when we started playing. So safe to say,
I am sure that's going
to
be a very common thing. A lot of people, the first time they play it, they're just going, another one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But what I found really interesting is that, I played, like I said, I play Spades, and I play that with my roommate and some of our other friends quite a bit, but my partner had never played a trick-taking game before at all.
Oh.
So it was really interesting playing with one person who was very experienced, one person who was completely new to trick-taking games, and I did find, teaching a trick-taking game is a little bit complex in the beginning. It's something that I think across the board, when people first learn a trick-taking game, you have a little bit of trouble figuring it out. But what I really liked about the crew is that if you're following the missions, it starts you off with the most basic things, and you're just playing to get used to what trick taking is.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So we did that, and we played the first game, which is just you have one task. So we got that very quickly, but we felt like let's just play out the rest of our cards just to give her a little bit more experience in what it is that we're doing. And then as soon as we did that, we went to the next one, which is 2 tasks. It was a little bit more complicated, but not much. And from there, she knew what she was doing, and we were able to just go. And it worked out really, really well. So even though she started from 0, it worked out great.
Wow, that's really cool. Now, how do you feel? I mean, if all 3 of you had been trick-taking officers, because I think that is one of the elements of the crew that's potentially transformative about this game. Is that I think people who have never been interested in spades or hearts or pinochle or there's like billions of them out there.
Oh yeah.
But would be it's a modern cool card game that is super duper low price. It has to do with finding the Lost Planet 9. Sure, we'll give it a go. Why not? And then you find yourself, what is this? What is a trick? Why do they call it? Why do they call it a trick, Shea? I have no idea.
But yeah, I don't know the answer to that myself. I just watched No Pun Included's great video on this game, but also he talks about the history of trick taking games, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah. You can hit that eye, folks, and go check out Efka and Elaine's video for it too. I agree. I watched it also. They did say some fairly controversial stuff in there, I thought, about a certain other card game that they just kind of. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You draw your own conclusions.
Exactly.
So you played as a 3-player. Have you played it as a 2-player?
I did. I played a couple quick rounds as a 2-player game. I found it interesting. I actually really liked the way that they made that 2-player version work, and it definitely makes it a different game.
Yeah.
The whole like AI, or not really AI, but like partially obscured information that you have, made it really interesting. But I think I prefer it as a 3-player game or 3 to 5. But I would definitely play it the 2-player version as well.
Yeah. Did you find, I'm curious, comparing the 2 and the 3, my assumption is the more players you have around the table, the tougher it gets. If for no other reason than because of the imperfect communication, the fact that I've told you everything you need to know by saying nothing and just putting a single piece of cardboard on a single card. You should be able to figure this out. What is wrong with you? Why can't you read my mind?
I would definitely agree with that. I actually found that when I played the 3-player version, we were using the communication mechanic a lot.
Yeah.
Because we felt like we needed to. But when we were playing the 2-player version, we almost didn't use it at all.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Now, granted, we didn't play nearly as much with the 2-player version. I'm sure as we got to the harder missions that we would end up using that. But as 3-player, we're using it quite a bit. Granted, like I said, we were playing with one person who is a little bit less experienced, so that was kind of an important aspect of the game. Whereas with a 2-player, I was playing it with my roommate. We were both well-versed in this, and so we knew what to do. But yeah, like I said, we used the communication significantly less. And I imagine when you're playing with 4 or 5 players, you're going to use that communication like every single round.
Oh yeah, and as soon as 4 of the people have communicated, that's 4 bits of data you have to bear in mind. Okay, I see 2 of these cards, and I see you've got at least 1 more card that's higher than the one you've shown, and that means, okay, I know now where 4 or maybe 6 of the cards are, because I see you've only, it can really get kind of crazy really quick, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In a good way. It is interesting. There's really no scaling for that. I mean, if you get this without much experience and you decide, let's just play a 5-player game right off the bat, you're probably going to crash and burn a lot, I would think.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I have to figure that's going to be tough, especially if people have never played trick-taking games.
Yeah.
I think it does a really good game. I mean, like I said, it eases you into it with the mission system, and that is going to, without it even telling you any of the strategies, it's going to teach you to sort of figure out on your own how to manipulate your cards and the cards in your hand in order to get what you want.
Yeah.
So I think that it does a really good job of teaching the trick-taking formula, I guess.
So it is actually really cool that your partner was a noob playing again, but not with playing with two experts. Did you talk? I mean, how did she feel about it? Because, like I said, when I played, Jen and I played, we were both fairly novice, and everybody else around the table. Yeah, I mean, we know what a trump is, and we both knew intellectually, but I just don't think we had the rhythm and the vibe. And we were playing this full player count game, and we both, we liked all the people, and I know they were having a good time, and they were just kind of, why did you play that card? This game. I do have to warn, for folks who maybe are prone to, social wallflower issues, this can be a very stressful game. I mean, in the run through I just did, which you haven't actually seen, Shea. I filmed it a couple of days ago, and my guy Paulo, who checks my videos for rules goofs, he'd already seen it, and he's already checked it for goofs, and he wrote me, dude, why did you make that first turn? Why did you make that play? I've watched it a half dozen times. I don't see why you did that. It was so obvious you should have done the other thing. And I'm sure I probably by now got plenty of comments on the video itself from people saying, what an idiot bonehead move. And it's like, and yeah, I feel stupid now. Because there's just something about this nature of trick taking that you have to kind of do. Is it inductive reasoning, or is it inductive reasoning, the fact that I should be able to figure out what's going on, not based on what I know, but what I know that you haven't said? All that kind of stuff really gets very interesting. And when even Paulo let me have it, I realized maybe that's why Jen and I are enjoying it so much as a two-player game, because we're both novices. We're both just working our way through it, because Jarvis does not judge us. Jarvis is anything even stupider than us, and so that is actually very much appreciated. And I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry, go on.
Oh, the thing I really liked about Jarvis is that it changes the game in such a way that you can. So when you're playing, you have to play a specific way. So if you have a green card in your hand, you have to play it if someone else leads with a green card.
Yeah.
But with Jarvis, because there are those face down cards, there might be green cards that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. But I agree with you that there is you can stumble a bit. But I think that honestly, like I said, I've played a lot of trick taking games, but even I was having a few moments of like, oh no, I made the wrong choice, because I'm still thinking about I should be winning these tricks and not necessarily that I should be helping other people win these tricks.
Yeah, that is actually an interesting problem to have, I suppose. Not that I had that.
Yeah. So I think that, it takes a little bit to get used to, but once you do, you definitely get into that flow, and it works really well.
Now, let me ask you this. I didn't talk about it much, although I did try to highlight it in the run-through itself. You have 50 missions you go on. I believe it's 50. Yes. And there is an actual story. And I suspect most people will be very, very quick to dismiss that story offhand. Why is this even here? What is the point of this? Just tell me the special rules, or just, don't even give this to me in a linear format. Just let me say, oh, let me turn to a random page, and we'll play this one and that one and the other. And I totally understand some people would like that, but I gotta say, for us, actually having a story. I mean, this is not some kind of deep, Nebula or Hugo or Pulitzer Prize winning story.
No.
But it is a narrative that pulls us through. Oh, we're now on that planet. I've heard of that. And oh, this is an interesting thing. And the video I showed. Oh no, the communication modules are off, which means we have to repair 4 modules. We have to win 4 tricks in the correct order. Obviously that's abstract. It's not like at any point did I feel the icy claws of space, seeping into my suit or anything like that. But I did find it much more compelling and much more. It was, for us, it was a bigger drive to, hey, let's play another one, because we did find, once we got the hang of it, we were winning. And I want to see, well, what's the next planet we go to? Really at its heart, all it's doing is, what is the next wrinkle they can throw onto these very simple rules? But the fact that they did do a little bit of work to try to thematically justify those, I was very appreciative of. Now, I know you are more on the thematic side of gaming. If you folks check out your channel, I mean, watch your epic Twilight Imperium thing that you did. So I'm curious, what was your response to all that?
So I agree that the story is very tacked on, but honestly, I didn't mind that. Yeah. I liked the attempt of it. I mean, I think that I think the game would still be good even if it was just number cards. But I appreciated that it gave an attempt, like you said, to tie the missions together.
Yeah.
I think that makes it more interesting, and like I said, it helps you go from one to the next to progress the story, even if it's a little bit minor. I also really appreciated. I'm looking at the cards right now of the little art on the cards and the what do you call it? The homages to other like sci-fi franchises. Like Live Long and Prosper. My favorite card is the 3 card where they're playing rock paper scissors with their robotic arms and stuff. So. And I think that is something that they wouldn't have been able to do if they were just, doing spades and hearts and clubs and diamonds.
Yeah.
So while I don't think that the story is necessary, I do think that it's nice. I think I appreciate it for sure, if only to give it a little bit extra window dressing to, keep you going with it.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Do you have any problems with the game?
So far, I haven't had any problems. There's one thing that I've thought about, which is that you get to the end of the 50 missions and then it's like, well, what do you do from now? Obviously, you can just go back and try again. It lets you keep score, so maybe try to beat your high score from last time.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even mention that. Although if you go back and watch the run through, folks, when I showed the picture of the of the different missions, there were like those bars down at the bottom where you kept track of progress and whatnot. And actually, at no point, I'm curious, Shea, I'm sorry, I'm going to change subjects on you. Have you had a cause to use that little satellite bonus helper thing? Which you can see it in the run through. Basically, if you decide to use it, everybody gets to take 1 card from their hand and hand it to their neighbor. Basically, right?
Yeah, I had one game where we considered using it, and then we just decided not to. I think partially because we're all gamers, and we're like, well, yeah, but if we use that, we're gonna have to add an extra attempt to our score. So we don't want to. Let's just try it and see how it goes. And so we considered using it, but then we ended up not. And granted, we were only about a dozen missions in, so we haven't gotten to the really hard ones.
Right.
But I felt okay, like with what we had. I haven't yet have had cause to use it.
Yeah.
How about you? Have you had to use it?
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Have you had to use it?
No. We're I think what have we done? We did the first 15 or 16, and then we stopped. And we did the first 10, then we did another 5, and then I just, hey, honey, let's just do a couple of later ones. Just I wanted to get a feel for the later ones where you're like having to win 9 tricks in a row, and the biggest danger is, okay, we're just, how can we pull this off? I don't feel like I am good enough or smart enough at trick taking yet to be able to work that into my mental machinations, which again, if you watch the run through, you'll see my mental machinations are still kind of at the baby trick taking level, but I guess it's there. And it is interesting what you're starting to say. It didn't occur to me till you mentioned this. It is very, very standard for cooperative games, board games, starting with Pandemic, and it's par for the course to have difficulty levels, to have modifiers, to say, okay, you've mastered it, here's how you can make the game harder. There's nothing like that here, is there?
No, I mean, besides the progression through the story, there isn't any specific difficulty modifier, like you said. Although, I mean, so I played, several missions, and then I tried the 2-player variant, and for that, I didn't even look at the missions. I just said, okay, let's put out 3 task cards,
right,
and we'll play with that, and then we played it again. Let's do 5. So while there isn't anything in the game that could give you a specific way to increase the difficulty, they give you the tool set that you can use to create your own difficulty set.
I suppose that's true, yeah. Well, plus, I mean, things like dead zones and whatnot, you can say, oh, let's play with this turned on or this turned off. You don't have to follow the missions at all. It's interesting, when we played it at Dice Tower West Convention, John D. Clare, the designer of Mystic Vale, taught us. And he said, all right, there's a whole story here about space. I'm going to ignore all of that. And basically he taught it to us 100% in terms of trick taking. He threw all that out the window and said, oh, by the way, there's 50 missions. I'm going to ignore all of that. Here, play where there's just 3 objectives you have to do. And if you win, play with 4 objectives you have to do. And if you win, play with 5 objectives you have to do. Keep playing until you lose. And that was his kind of personal variant for it.
That sounds about right.
I'm missing half of the game here. But it was okay, because I was just floundering around like an idiot anyways. I don't know what to play. I'm afraid. Because I'm just petrified that I was just... So did your partner, did she talk at all about, social misgivings with you? I mean, playing with 2 really experienced players? Or were you guys, kind and gentle enough that it wasn't really an issue?
We definitely took it easy. We're not in general, we're not going to be like vindictive about losing a trick anyway.
No, nor was anybody I played with. I should point that out. Everybody I played with was a wonderful, charming. They were all good players. I just felt like an idiot because I was not on the same level as them. But anyway, go on.
Right. So in the beginning, she did have a little bit of difficulty with it, and we did make a few mistakes. And she felt, she got a little anxious about it. But we made sure to say, like, that's just what happens when you're starting off with this. And we kind of walked her through, like, because of how, because I played this, you could have easily played that and finished that task.
Yeah.
And then
is she
once
a total
we did
novice
that,
gamer, or do you throw your ticket to rides at her, or what is her gamer level?
She plays games with us. She loves Quacks of Quedlinburg.
And,
okay. I've introduced her into some games. She likes games with a lot of story or a lot of character, things like that. But she doesn't play Twilight Imperium with me, I should say. But so she has had experience with some games. So she's not a complete novice, and she's used to like taking a minute to get a handle on how things work. And then once we got started, it was easy.
Yeah.
It ended up being a kind of a joke that she ended up being the commander most of the time. Just from random chance, she always had the 4 rockets, so she was always the commander. So every time that like we were dealing it out, it's like, I'm just going to put this right next to you. She's like, oh, great, yeah.
I can think of one thing. I mean, because I gotta say, if I haven't made it clear, Jen and I like this a lot. This is a total keeper. I think it works for a lot of different purposes. As a great introduction to trick taking, kind of priming you. I could maybe now play, was it spades or hearts, whichever one you play. I don't know. But
I play spades, but there's for sure.
One thing that does bug me about it, but it's not the crew's fault. A big part of trick taking, to be truly successful at trick taking, is memory.
It's true.
Right? Because, the crew makes it very clear. Once that trick is won, a player who won it put it face down, and you don't get to look at those anymore. So it is incumbent on you. Has anybody played the green 9? I don't remember. And if they have, then it's fine. I'm totally safe with this 8. But what if, oh my God, I can't remember. And personally, I could do without that. I would love to say, hey, yeah, tricks are all taken and placed face up. Because neither Jen or I are big fans of memory. I mean, it didn't incapacitate us or debilitate us, but there were certainly times when it did seem kind of frustrating. Now, like I said, you're an old hand, and that is a given, right? I mean, trick-taking games, a big part of success is memory.
That's true, and it's interesting that you say that. So the first few missions that we did, we actually played where we kept the completed tricks face up, so that we didn't have to memorize. We could take a look, and then after we had played a few rounds, we went to the actual rules and started keeping them face down, and that does definitely introduce a bit of difficulty in it. I think if I were teaching it again to a person who had never played a trick-taking game, I would do the same thing. Just keep it face up for a while so you don't have to force that extra wrinkle of strategy into it. But I also think that is what elevates trick-taking games. Mm-hmm. It isn't something that is immediately apparent, but once you realize it, then you are focused the entire game and trying to remember. And what makes it so interesting is when in that moment it's like, oh, wait, have we played 6 green cards or 7 green cards? Because I have 2 of them, and if anybody else has anything, then this is going to be a problem.
Oh, and that is the point. This is a communal memory game.
Yes, but you also can't talk about it.
Wait, can you? You can't talk about what's in your hand. Are you not allowed to talk about what you remember is in your taken tricks?
That's a good point.
I don't think so. I think it's just your hand.
That's a fair point. I think you could play either way. I think if you want to add that extra difficulty, you can definitely play without that. I would have to check the rules specifically for that. You might be right, though, that you can talk about what's, you can't talk about what's in your hand, but you can talk about what has been played.
Yeah, I mean, the rules are very clear that the only thing you're allowed to talk about, and it's very broad, is anything that is publicly known.
Oh, okay, then yeah.
Right? And that means, I took, 3 tricks ago, I took the green 9. It's in this deck. I can't show it to you. But if I remember it's there, that's public knowledge.
Yeah, it's true.
So, So, I guess that does soften it a little bit. Because, I'll be honest. Jen and I are like, that's just crap. Let's just play them hands up. And I guess if we keep at it, we'll get to the point where no, we want that extra challenge of having to remember a bunch of stuff, but we just really hate memory. So we're totally cheating.
Fair enough.
It would be nice then if we were to cheat like that. I mean, I would certainly say it would be nice if the game came with a catalog of, the video game format of, hey, look, here's all these modifiers you can turn on or off to make it harder or make it easier, and these affect your scores and stuff like that. Play tricks, taking tricks face up. Well, that'll reduce your score every time you win by 2. But then you can do, I don't know what else, something else to increase. I mean, something like that would have been nice. But it's not necessary because I'm really grasping at straws. The long story short, we had a great time every single time we played it. And while I have a couple of minor nitpicks on the whole, I like it. It's a total keeper.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed this game. I'm very excited to play through the entire 50 mission book. And then, we'll go from there. That's the only thing I'm thinking about is like, what do we do once we finish it? I think the answer is then we just go back and play our favorite versions. Yeah. But until then, I'm going to have a great time with this.
Yeah.
And at $15 too. Like, this is such a cheap game, and it provides so much entertainment for so much bang for your buck.
Yeah. And, if you're a noob, it can really open doors. Which,
absolutely.
Honestly, I was not considering at all. I just knew this was an incredibly hot game that came out of Essen Spiel Fair in Germany last year. It was only available in German. Everybody was talking about it. It was the hottest game of the show, impossible to get. Yeah. It's now finally available. If it's not already sold out, because there was so much heat behind it. And I just like, oh yeah, look, it's a game I have to cover. It's probably going to be crap as a 2-player game because they don't even put 2 players on the box. It's almost like they're embarrassed. But honestly, like I said, I love the Jarvis system. You're right. It makes it a different game, but it's still an interesting puzzle to solve. Just a slightly different puzzle than trying to figure out what cards you're holding in your hand, because I can see half of the cards in your hand. But I get that information, but you or Jarvis never has the opportunity to say, oh, this was my only blue. So Jarvis just communicates in a different way that also is imperfect because he won't tell me anything about all that hidden stuff that I really need to know. So, yeah. Okay, so big thumbs up, it sounds like, all around.
Thumbs up for sure. I really enjoyed it.
Well, then, I guess that is it, folks. That is the crew, and this has been Shea Parker. Shea, thank you very much for joining. Like I said, if you want to check out his channel, Shea, it's a great channel. I especially like your series about how to teach games.
Thank you so much.
I think it's absolutely phenomenal. A lot of really great tips in there, and folks should go check it out. And you can follow the show notes link or hit the I. But otherwise, I'm going to say thanks everybody for watching. Have a very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye. Shea, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.